point was so that people would see themselves reflected in the work, throughout the entire city, all of the essential workers. Even though we couldn't necessarily depict every single one of the jobs, we wanted them to be able to know that this is for them.
Scope of the entire mural really speaks to people.
Welcome to Quinte Cares. I'm Sandy Barnes. As COVID-19 restrictions begin to ease and we get back to our daily lives, the new normal is certainly part of that. But we also want to remember that our essential workers have been on the front lines all of this time and continue to be so. Popping up all over the world is coronavirus-inspired artwork, something like we have behind us today. And we have our own right here in Belleville at 113 Dundas Street East. Joining me now is Christopher Bennett, the artist behind the mural. Welcome, Christopher.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us, what inspired you to make a mural for Belleville?
Well, aside from being very passionate towards Belleville and Belleville being home, I was inspired through global murals, a lot of artwork that I was seeing, and I thought, you know what, I want to do one for Belleville, for Quinte, but overall I want to contribute to one for the world.
Yes, and what you've created behind us is very inspirational.
Well, thank you.
And tell us, how long did it take you to develop it? So you had to do some artwork first?
Yeah, it took, initially it went very fast, faster than usual projects would go. So it all came together quite well with some local sponsors, and things were facilitated. So, yes.
She is a trustee with the Hastings Prince Edward District School Board and also the champion of this beautiful gratitude wall. Welcome today, Lisa Ann.
All right, thank you for having me.
Tell me, how did you get involved with this?
Well, that was pretty simple. Christopher had put out a message on Facebook that said, I want to do this gratitude mural. Is anybody interested in helping me to put this together? Anybody have a wall? And I was like, yeah, I do. I want to help in any way I possibly can. That would be fantastic. I think it's badly needed. A good news piece was badly needed at this time.
Yes, certainly. I know that there were so many negative stories coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
And so it is so nice to have a positive one like this.
Just to focus on the helpers, on the good that brought the community together, and especially in terms of the sponsors. They were ones from all different sectors that came together to help to make this happen. We had to pay for Christopher's time and talent and paint and primer and the battlefield scissor lift that we had. There were many people that came together to make that happen.
And yes, and these are things that we don't even think about, right?
Yes.
That, yes, someone has an idea, there is an inspiration, but how do we continue on with all of that?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Lisa Ann, I noticed there's a dedication plaque on the wall listing a number of sponsors. How did you go about getting sponsorship for the project?
I did look to the community to see who the helpers generally are, and I reached out to them first. So the list of people that I approached, we just decided, it's definitely a good thing to have them up there on the wall so that people know how this came to be. And again, it covered the costs of Christopher's time, his talent, the paint, the machinery that we needed to get to put this on the wall. So the sponsors are Ross McDougall, Councillor Ryan and Allison Williams, John Ross Parks, myself and my husband, Doctors Robert and Jennifer Webster, Dean Lindsay, and of course Battlefield Rental Equipment. They had done a huge favor to us to allow us to use the equipment that we needed to reach the very highest pinnacle of the wall.
We're on location today at the National Air Force Museum of Canada. Established in 1984, it is one of Canada's national treasures right here in Trenton, Ontario. Today, I'm joined with Steve Bolton, and he's currently the chair of the board of directors here with the museum. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about how you became involved with the museum.
Well, we discovered this, I'm using the royal we here, okay? We discovered a Halifax bomber at the bottom of a lake in Norway, and the decision was made to salvage the aircraft and bring it back here to Trenton. I came on board here so that we could build a house for the Halifax. So my original grooming was to set up a publicity mechanism for the fundraising and for the Halifax itself. And former wing commander of the base, a fellow named Ron Russell, he recruited me along with another gentleman named Ken Key, and they're both retired colonels. And they said, hey, can you help us? And I said, well, I don't know much about Halifax bombers. And they said, that doesn't matter, you'll learn. And I did.
Wow, and that must have been quite the undertaking. I understand that the Halifax was underwater for 50 or more years.
Yeah, it went down in 1945. If there's a beauty in it, I mean, war is terrible because, I mean, 4 of the 5 crew members lost their lives. They froze to death in the lake. However, the fact of the matter is, thousands upon thousands of Canadian aircrew flew that aircraft, and it needs to be preserved. And it was in 750 feet of water, which is deep enough so there's not enough oxygen in the water to rust anything. And so that's what made the aircraft so, for lack of a better word, pristine when they raised it from the bottom of the lake.
I'm joined now by Sam Toth, one of the volunteers here at the museum. Welcome, Sam.
Thanks for having me.
And Sam, what got you involved in volunteering here at the museum?
Well, I was at a Starbucks in Belleville and I saw the ad saying volunteers welcome, and I called and got signed up.
And do you have an interest in flight or aviation at all?
I always loved learning about planes. I don't want to fly in planes, I just love learning about the history about planes.
And the history specific to World War II or just general
Entirely.
aviation?
I just enjoy planes and the science of planes and how they work and stuff like that.
Oh, very good. And you're one of our youngest volunteers here. And how long have you been volunteering here?
About a year, just
Yes.
about, yeah.
And what do you enjoy most about volunteering?
Probably correcting people when they're wrong about something.
Yes. So when they're talking about the facts about the planes and
Yes.
things like that? Yes. And tell me, you have a little bit of an association with the museum. Can you talk about your grandfather?
Yeah, so he was a pilot after World War II, and he was in Hamilton, I believe, for most of his station life. And he got a Lancaster fuel tank, and they put that near the Halifax because they're identical. So he lives on in that memorial.
Oh, excellent. And so he actually had the fuel tank at his farm and was using it.
He was using it as a tool chest. Yeah, he's cracked it in half and would put his welder in it.
Wow, and sometimes we don't know the treasures that we have, right?
Exactly,
And
yeah.
their history.
Could be
Yeah.
right under your nose.
Absolutely.